Caleb Davis felt a little out of place among the elegant surroundings of the alien planet Arvella. He had always considered himself just an average engineer, more comfortable fixing engines on the interstellar cruiser Orion than attending fancy diplomatic receptions. But here he was, standing awkwardly among diplomats, scientists, and alien officials, trying his best not to spill his drink or accidentally offend someone important. The reception hall was brightly lit, filled with soft music and gentle conversations. Arvellians moved gracefully through the crowd, their feline-like features and smooth tails giving them a distinctive, elegant appearance. Caleb admired how effortlessly they communicated, their long tails moving fluidly behind them as they spoke. As he stood alone near a large window, he noticed Ambassador Leora making her way toward his direction. Leora was a respected figure on Arvella, known for her intelligence and charm. Her golden fur shone gently under the lights, and her emerald green eyes sparkled with genuine warmth. Caleb straightened himself nervously, suddenly unsure of what to do or say. "Caleb Davis," Leora greeted him, her voice melodic and calming. "I've heard good things about your skills as an engineer. It's nice to finally meet you." Caleb smiled, slightly embarrassed by her kindness. "Thanks, Ambassador Leora. I'm just trying not to cause any trouble here. Diplomatic gatherings aren't exactly my area of expertise." Leora laughed softly, her tail swishing gently behind her. "You're doing just fine. In fact, our technicians praised your team's recent work on the Orion. Your improvements increase its efficiency greatly." Feeling encouraged, Caleb relaxed slightly. "That's kind of them to say. Honestly, I'm more comfortable around machines and social gatherings." Leora's eyes brightened in amusement. "We all have our strengths. Speaking of which, I've noticed you humans have interesting ways of expressing yourselves. Humor, I believe you call it." Caleb chuckled. "Yeah, it helps us get through tough situations or awkward moments. Usually, anyway." She tilted her head curiously. "Fascinating. Perhaps you could demonstrate some humor for me. I've always wanted to understand it better." Caleb hesitated for a moment, suddenly feeling the pressure. Looking at her carefully, he noticed her tail again. It was particularly striking, elegantly curved and covered in soft golden fur that shimmered under the lights. Without thinking much, he said, "Well, Ambassador, if I may say so, nice tail." Leora froze, her eyes widening slightly. Caleb instantly regretted his words, noticing her reaction. "I'm sorry. Was that inappropriate? I just meant it as a joke. A compliment." Around them, some Arvellians stopped their conversations, staring at Caleb with surprised expressions. Panic began rising within him. Had he just insulted her? Did he make a terrible diplomatic mistake? But then, unexpectedly, Leora's face softened into a gentle, delighted smile. "No, Caleb Davis, it wasn't inappropriate at all. In fact, I am honored." Relief washed over him, though he still felt confused. "Honored? Really?" She nodded gracefully. "Indeed, among Arvellians, complimenting one's tail is a very special act. It signifies great respect and even deeper commitment." Caleb felt his heart sinking again, sensing he might have accidentally stepped into something serious. Commitment? Like a friendship or something? "Something more significant than that," Leora explained patiently. "It's considered a formal marriage proposal." Caleb's eyes widened in shock, feeling the room spin slightly around him. "Marriage? But Ambassador, I had no idea." "I was just joking." The Arvellian diplomat maintained her calm and reassuring demeanor. "I understand completely, Caleb. However, according to our traditions, your words have a very specific meaning. Rejecting them outright could harm the relationship between our peoples." The weight of the situation pressed heavily on Caleb. He swallowed nervously, sensing that the room around them had grown quieter, as though everyone was listening. Leora continued, her voice firm yet compassionate. "According to our customs, accepting this proposal means you must stay with me as my husband for exactly 7 days. It is a symbolic union, very important for maintaining goodwill between our peoples. Caleb looked around helplessly, seeing his fellow crew members from Orion watching with amusement and surprise. He took a deep breath, realizing there wasn't much choice left. Diplomatic incidents were to be avoided at all costs. Slowly, he nodded. Ambassador Leora, I will do whatever is needed for the sake of our alliance. She smiled warmly again, her emerald eyes twinkling with gentle humor. Please, Caleb, call me Leora. After all, you are my husband now, at least for the next 7 days. Caleb groaned inwardly, seeing the grins from his colleagues and knowing he would hear about this for a long time. He forced a smile, accepting the strange new reality. All right, Leora, he said, doing his best to sound brave. 7 days. How hard could it be? Caleb Davis sat in a quiet room inside the Arvelian embassy, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Only a few hours ago, he had made a joke about an alien tale. Now he was called a husband, and everyone seemed to accept it like it was normal. He rubbed his forehead, still trying to understand how things had gone so wrong so fast. The room was peaceful, filled with soft lights and strange but calming smells. It was meant to help guests relax, but Caleb felt anything but relaxed. His communicator buzzed on the table beside him. It was a message from the Orion's captain, Nora Blake. She simply wrote, "Hold it together. Caleb, we're all counting on you not to mess this up." Caleb sighed. That was easy for her to say. She wasn't the one who had just become a husband to an alien ambassador by accident. Just then, the door opened, and Leora walked in. She looked pleased, her tail swaying gently behind her. Caleb stood up out of respect. "Please sit," Leora said kindly. "I hope you're settling in well." Caleb gave a nervous laugh. "Well, I've been married less than a day, so I'm not sure how well I'm doing." She chuckled. "You're doing fine. I know. This is strange for you, but it's important to my people. What you said at the reception was taken very seriously. Our leaders have already begun celebrating the symbolic union." "That's the part I don't get," Caleb replied. "Why is a joke taken so seriously?" Leora sat down beside him, her eyes calm and patient. In Arvelian culture, words have great meaning. Compliments, especially about the tale, are sacred. They come from old traditions. Long ago, choosing a mate was done through tale compliments. Even now, it's considered the highest form of honor and intent. Caleb shook his head. "Where I come from, it's just a way to be funny, sometimes even rude. And that is why we must be patient with each other," she said. "This is more than just about you and me. Your people and mine are about to start a new era of friendship. Your joke, though unintended, has given us a rare opportunity." Caleb understood the message behind her words. If he refused to follow the tradition, it could create tension or even break the peace talks. He didn't want that on his conscience. "So, what exactly do I have to do?" he asked. Leora smiled. "You simply stay by my side for 7 days. Attend public events, learn our ways, and be seen as my husband. That is all. At the end of the 7th day, the bond ends with a simple farewell ceremony." Caleb nodded slowly. "All right, I can do that. For 7 days. Thank you, Caleb. I know this isn't easy for you," Leora said softly. Later that day, Caleb joined Leora at an official lunch with Arvelian ministers. The large hall was filled with food, music, and conversations. Everyone was polite and curious about Caleb. Some even congratulated him. He smiled and nodded, trying not to look too confused. One young Arvelian asked, "Did you win her heart through a battle of words or a gift of light?" Caleb blinked. I just said she had a nice tale." The whole table laughed joyfully. Caleb laughed too, but inside he was still unsure how to act. Back at the Orion, the crew had already heard the news. His roommate Jordan greeted him with a grin in a video message. "Hey, Mr. Ambassador's husband. Don't forget to smile for the cameras. We're all watching." The next few days were a blur of events. Caleb attended dances, meals, and even a storytelling night where he had to tell a human tale in front of a crowd. He chose a simple story about fixing a broken engine during a space storm. The Irvelians clapped and cheered. One elder called it a story of courage and loyalty. Leora stayed beside him the whole time. She guided him with kindness and patience. Caleb began to see a different side of her. She wasn't just a leader. She had a gentle laugh, a curious mind, and a quiet strength that impressed him. They began talking more in private. She asked him about Earth, and he asked her about Arvella. He learned that she liked Earth music and had read many human books. She told him about her dreams for peace and cooperation. One evening, as they watched the stars from a balcony, Leora said, "You're doing well, Caleb. Better than many who prepare for this role." He looked at her, surprised. "I never prepared for this." "Sometimes the best paths are the ones we don't plan," she replied. Caleb smiled. Maybe she was right. Maybe this strange week would turn out to be more than just a joke gone wrong. But deep inside, he still wondered what would happen after the seventh day. Would things go back to normal? Or had his life changed forever in ways he couldn't yet see? Caleb Davis woke up early in the guest quarters of the Irvelian Palace. It was his third day as Leora's husband, and things were getting stranger, but also a little easier. He had started learning how Irvelians lived, what they believed, and what they valued. It was nothing like life on the Orion, but he was beginning to understand it. He stepped out onto the balcony and took a deep breath. The air on Arvella was cool and clean, with the soft scent of flowers in the breeze. In the distance, tall white towers shimmered under the twin suns. Birds with colorful wings flew through the sky, and he could hear gentle music from the streets. Below, Leora joined him shortly after, dressed in a flowing robe made of shining fabric. Her tail swayed behind her, calm and smooth. She handed him a warm drink that tasted like honey and mint. "Today is the joining walk," she said with a smile. "Joining walk?" Caleb asked, unsure. "It is a tradition," she explained. On the third day of union, couples walk through the gardens and speak about their hopes and worries. It shows trust and connection. Caleb took another sip of the drink. "All right, I can walk and talk. That's one thing I'm good at." The garden was huge and full of plants that glowed softly. Paths twisted around small ponds, and colorful insects floated through the air like tiny lights. Leora walked beside Caleb, her steps light and graceful. They talked about their lives. Caleb told her about growing up in Arizona, working on machines. Since he was a boy, Leora shared how she studied human cultures long before the Orion arrived. She had always been interested in humans and hoped for peace between their worlds. As they walked, a few Arvelians nodded or smiled at them. Caleb noticed how people respected Leora and how proud they seemed that she had taken a human as her husband, even for just 7 days. Later, they visited a temple of harmony. Inside, they lit small candles and placed them on floating stones. The stones glowed and moved slowly in a circle, creating a quiet rhythm. "This is where we honor balance," Leora said. "Between light and dark, change and tradition, self and others." Caleb watched the lights float. He didn't know much about balance in life, but he felt something peaceful in that moment. That evening, Leora invited him to a private dinner. The table was full of Arvelian dishes, most of which Caleb had never seen before. He tried everything. Some dishes were sweet, others spicy, and one made his tongue tingle. He laughed, and Leora laughed with him. "You are very brave," she said. "Most visitors avoid the fire roots." "Well," Caleb said, coughing a little, "I didn't want to look weak in front of my ... temporary wife." She smiled and looked down. "You say it like it doesn't matter." "I didn't mean that," he replied quickly. "It does matter. I just don't know what it means yet." They sat quietly for a moment. Then Leora said, "You are not like others. You listen. You try. That means more than you know." Caleb looked at her. "You're not what I expected either. I thought you'd be more formal, more distant." I can be, she said with a small grin. But I enjoy being myself with you. The next day, they took part in a festival. It was the day of connections, where people honored friendships and alliances. Caleb and Leora walked through a busy square filled with lights, music, and laughter. Children ran with glowing ribbons, and merchants sold sweet cakes and small charms. Leora helped Caleb choose a charm. He picked one shaped like a star. It means guidance, she explained. A wish to help others find their way. He handed it to her. Then it's for you. You've been guiding me this whole time. She looked surprised, but pleased. Thank you. I will treasure it. As the sun set, fireworks lit up the sky in soft colors. Caleb stood beside Leora, watching the lights. He felt different. He had come here confused and worried. Now he felt calmer. He wasn't sure what would happen after the 7 days, but for now he was beginning to enjoy this unexpected journey. Before they returned to the palace, Leora turned to him. Tomorrow will be more challenging. There is a High Council meeting, and we must appear as a true pair. Will you be ready? Caleb took a deep breath. I'll try my best. That is all I ask, she said. As they walked back together, Caleb realized he no longer felt like a stranger in a strange world. For the first time, he felt like he belonged. The sun was high over the city of Arvella as Caleb Davis walked beside Leora through the wide marble halls of the High Council building. It was the 4th day of their strange marriage, and today they were attending an important council meeting. Caleb had spent the morning trying to remember everyone's name and title, but it was all a blur. He wore formal Arvellian robes, which felt heavy and too long for him. Leora, as always, moved with ease and confidence. Her tail swayed behind her with calm grace, and her voice was strong as she greeted the council members. Caleb stayed close to her, nodding politely and smiling when needed. The meeting room was large and filled with voices. Leaders from different Arvellian regions had gathered to talk about new agreements with Earth. Caleb sat quietly beside Leora while she spoke with great care. She explained how humans could share knowledge and resources. In peace. As Leora spoke, Caleb noticed a group of Arvellians across the room watching her closely. They didn't smile. One of them, a tall figure in dark robes, whispered to the others. Caleb felt a chill in his spine. After the meeting ended, Leora led Caleb out into a quiet hallway. You did well, she said kindly. Just your presence helped. They trust you more each day. I don't know how much help I was, Caleb replied. I just tried not to fall asleep or say the wrong thing. She laughed gently. Sometimes silence is a strength. As they stepped outside, a loud bang echoed through the air. Caleb looked up to see smoke rising from the council building. Shouts and screams followed. Guards rushed forward. Leora grabbed Caleb's arm and pulled him behind a column. Stay close, she said sharply. Her eyes scanned the area quickly. A second explosion shook the ground. This time it was closer. Dust filled the air. From the smoke, shadowy figures appeared, running toward the crowd. Some held strange weapons. Panic spread fast. They're attacking the council, Leora said. We have to move. Caleb followed her. As they ran through side paths and back alleys, they reached a transport pod hidden behind the building. Leora activated it, and the pod shot into a tunnel beneath the city. Who are they? Caleb asked, breathing hard. They call themselves the True Line, Leora replied. They don't want peace with humans. They believe Arvella should stay pure and separate. Caleb sat in silence, trying to process everything. Were they trying to hurt you? Yes, and maybe you too. If they kill us, they can break the alliance. That's their goal. The pod stopped deep underground in a secret shelter. It was small but safe, with supplies and a communication system. Leora checked the screens while Caleb sat down on a bench. You planned for something like this? He asked. We always plan, she said. But I hoped it would never happen. They stayed in the shelter for hours. Messages came in slowly. The attack had failed, but some council members were hurt. The Orion had sent security teams to help. Caleb felt both angry and afraid. "This isn't what I signed up for," he said. "I came here to help with peace, not run from bombs." Leora sat beside him. "I'm sorry, Caleb. I didn't want this for you, but this is real. Our bond, though symbolic, makes you a target." He looked at her. "Are you scared?" "Yes," she admitted. "But not for myself. For what we might lose. For what this means for our future." Caleb thought for a moment. "Back home, when things get hard, we fix them. We don't give up. I may not understand all this, but I won't run. I'll stay with you." She placed her hand on his. "Thank you." "Caleb, that means more than you know." They shared a quiet meal that night, sitting on the floor and eating simple food. Outside the shelter, the city was still under watch, but inside, they found a strange peace. Later, before sleeping, Leora, today you saw what danger looks like. But you also saw what courage feels like. You faced it with me. That changes things." Caleb nodded. He had come to Arvella by accident, and now he was living a role he never imagined. But in the middle of fear and confusion, he felt something strong grow between him and Leora. He didn't know what the next days would bring, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't just playing a part anymore. He was truly standing beside her. The forest was quiet except for the sound of wind in the trees and the soft steps of two people moving carefully through the undergrowth. Caleb Davis followed Leora as they moved deeper into the woods outside the city. It was the 5th day of their 7-day bond, but nothing felt like a ceremony anymore. They were hiding Dot after the attack on the council building. Leora had decided they would be safer far from the city for a while. The shelter under the city was safe, but not for long. The True Line was still active, and no one knew when they would strike again. Leora led Caleb to a small cabin hidden in the forest. It was an old building once used by Arvellian scouts. Inside, it was simple but warm. There were supplies, a cooking area, and 2 sleeping mats on the floor. Caleb sat down with a sigh. "This place looks like it hasn't been used in years." "That's why it's safe," Leora said. "No one will think to look for us here." They rested for a while and shared a quiet meal. Outside, the suns began to set, painting the sky in colors Caleb had never seen before. Purple and orange clouds floated over the trees, and tiny lights danced in the air. Later that night, they sat beside a small fire inside the cabin. Caleb looked at the flames, then at Leora. "Do you think the Alliance is still safe?" Leora didn't answer right away. She stared into the fire. "I don't know. The attack scared many of our leaders. Some will now say that humans bring danger. Others will say we should never have trusted your people." "But we didn't cause the attack," Caleb said. "We're the ones they attacked." "That's true," she said softly. "But fear does not always listen to reason." Caleb leaned back and stared at the ceiling. "This whole thing started because I made a stupid joke. Now it's turned into something big and serious. Bigger than me." Leora turned toward him. "You didn't cause this, Caleb. You became part of something because you were kind. You spoke without fear. That's rare." He looked at her. "You really believe that?" "Yes, and more." "I didn't tell you everything before." Caleb sat up. "What do you mean?" Leora took a deep breath. "After the joke you made at the reception, I had a choice. I could have rejected the marriage custom. I could have said it didn't count, but I didn't." "Why not?" Caleb asked. "Because I knew that if I accepted, it would protect you. It would show the council that you were one of us, even if only for 7 days. If I had denied the bond, they might have sent you away or even arrested you for disrespect." Caleb was quiet for a moment. "So, you saved me. You did all this to protect me." She nodded. "At first, yes, but later it changed." He looked into her eyes. "How did it change?" Leora smiled gently. "You tried to learn our ways. You listened. You stood by me during danger. I stopped seeing you as just a human guest. You became dot dot something more. Caleb's heart beat faster. He had not expected her to say that. He had felt the change too, but he wasn't sure if it was real or just part of the strange week they were sharing. I've changed too, he admitted. At first, I just wanted to survive the 7 days and go back to the Orion, but now, I don't want to leave without knowing what this really means. They sat in silence for a while. The fire crackled softly. The night outside was dark, but inside the cabin, it felt warm and safe. The next morning, Leora and Caleb worked together to fix parts of the old cabin. They repaired a broken window and cleaned the water filter. It felt good to do something simple. Caleb found himself smiling more. You're not bad with tools, Leora said with a grin. I told you, Caleb replied. I'm better with machines than people. You're better with people than you think, she said. By the end of the day, they had made the cabin feel like a home. They cooked dinner and sat outside watching the stars. Caleb pointed at the sky. Back home, I used to dream about being out here, among the stars. I never thought I'd end up married to someone from another world. Leora laughed. Life brings strange gifts. He looked at her again, and sometimes those gifts are better than dreams. She didn't reply, but the smile she gave him said enough. For the first time, Caleb felt that this wasn't just a week-long joke anymore. It was real. The danger, the friendship, and maybe even something more than that. He didn't know what the last 2 days would bring, but he was no longer afraid. The 6th day began with a message. Caleb Davis and Leora were sitting outside the small forest cabin, sharing a quiet morning meal, when the alert came through Leora's communicator. A team from the Orion, with help from Arvelian security, had captured the leaders of the True Line. The attack on the council had failed completely. The threat was over. Caleb felt relief wash over him. So it's done? We can go back now? Leora nodded slowly. Yes, but we must return carefully. The city is still healing. The people need to see strength. They packed their few things and left the cabin together. A small flyer arrived by midday to take them back to the capital. As it rose into the air, Caleb looked down at the forest one last time. It had become a place of peace and honesty. He would not forget it. The city was quieter than before, but not broken. People moved through the streets with care. Flowers had been placed at the council building to honor the injured. Caleb and Leora were taken to the Orion first. There, Caleb was greeted by his captain and crew. Glad to see you in one piece, Captain Nora Blake said. You've been busy, Caleb smiled. You could say that. You're needed for one last ceremony, she added. A farewell event for the end of your ... union. He looked at Leora, who was standing beside him. Her face was calm, but her eyes were unreadable. That evening, the farewell ceremony was held in a large public hall. Bright lights filled the room. Arvelians and humans gathered together. The air was full of soft music and the sound of quiet voices. Caleb stood beside Leora on a raised platform. A speaker from the council spoke about peace, unity, and the strength shown by both worlds. Caleb barely heard the words. He kept looking at Liora. When the moment came, they were asked to remove the ceremonial bands tied to their wrists. It was a sign that the 7-day bond had ended. Leora held out her hand, waiting. Caleb hesitated for a second, then untied the thin silver band from his wrist. She did the same. They placed the bands into a small glowing bowl between them. The crowd clapped softly. After the ceremony, guests came to greet them. Some thanked Caleb for his courage. Others asked him what it was like to live as an Arvelian's husband. He gave polite answers, but his heart was heavy. Later, Leora and Caleb found a quiet balcony above the hall. The stars above were clear and bright. So, Caleb said, looking out at the night sky, I guess this is goodbye. Leora nodded. That is what the ceremony means, but meanings are not always simple. He turned to her. I don't want this to just end. These 7 days have changed me. I don't want to go back to being the same person I was. She looked at him gently. You won't. I see it in you. You've grown. You've seen our world, felt our fears, and shared our hopes. That stays with you. What about you? He asked. Leora looked at the stars. I took a risk when I accepted the bond. At first, it was political. Then it became something personal. You were brave. You stood by me. And I started to care more than I thought I would. Caleb stepped closer. Then why? End it? Why not keep going? She gave a small, sad smile. Because 7 days is our tradition. We must honor it. But that doesn't mean this is the end. He watched her for a moment, then said, Then let's say goodbye for now. But not forever. She nodded. Not forever. The next morning, Caleb prepared to return to duty on the Orion. He walked through the ship's halls feeling different. He no longer felt like just an engineer. He felt like someone who had stood for something, even if it started with a joke dot as he reached the station. A small package was waiting for him. Inside was a silver charm in the shape of a star, just like the one he had given Leora during the festival. There was a note to Caleb Davis. You gave me light when I needed it most. May you always find your way. Leora. Caleb smiled, holding the charm. He knew the bond was over, but the connection was not broken. It was still there, quiet and strong dot as the Orion prepared to leave Arvella. Caleb looked out the window one last time. He wasn't sure when he would return, but he knew this planet would always be part of him. And maybe one day he and Leora would meet again. Not because of duty, not because of accident, but because they wanted to. A week after leaving Arvella, Caleb Davis was still thinking about everything that had happened. Life on the Orion felt almost normal again. He was back to fixing engines, helping with daily tasks, and talking with the crew. But he was different. Now, his friends noticed it too. He was quieter, more thoughtful. Sometimes he caught himself looking out at the stars, thinking about a world far away and a friend he had left behind. One evening, as he finished his shift, he found Captain Nora Blake waiting for him. She handed him a message on a small glowing tablet. Caleb recognized the symbol on the screen at once. It was the Arvellian crest. It's for you, Nora said with a small smile. You seem to have made quite an impression. Caleb took the tablet and went to his room. He sat on his bed and opened the message. Leora's face appeared, calm and bright as always. Her eyes sparkled, and her tail moved behind her in that gentle, familiar way. Hello, Caleb, her message began. I hope you are well. Our city is peaceful now. The leaders have thanked me many times for my role in the Alliance, but I always tell them I could not have done it without you. Caleb smiled as he listened. Leora spoke about small changes on Arvella. People from Earth were visiting the markets. Children from both worlds played together. There were new songs and foods and laughter in the streets. I wanted you to know, Leora continued, that I have kept the star charm you gave me. I wear it every day. Some say it has become a symbol for a new friendship. Others ask if I will ever invite my human husband back for another 7 days. I tell them perhaps. One day, Caleb laughed quietly. He could almost hear the humor in her voice, the way she had teased him during their first days together. She ended the message with a soft goodbye. May your path always be guided by light. And remember, sometimes the best adventures are the ones we never expect. After the message, Caleb felt something lift inside him. He went to the ship's lounge, where the crew were talking about the next mission. Jordan, his friend, nudged him. Got another message from your wife? Caleb grinned. Maybe. She says hello to everyone. You going back? Jordan asked. I hope so, Caleb answered honestly. There's still a lot to learn. The days passed. The Orion traveled to new worlds and met new people. But wherever Caleb went, he found small reminders of Arvella. Sometimes he would hear music that reminded him of Leora's laughter, or see a flower that grew only in her planet's gardens. He began to write down his memories in a small book, filling it with sketches and notes. He wanted to remember every moment. One day, as the Orion floated quietly in space, another message arrived. This one was different. It was an invitation, official and personal. The Council of Arvella requested Caleb to return as an honored guest to help with the next phase of the Alliance. Caleb stood at his window, looking out at the stars. He knew this was not just a diplomatic task. It was a chance to see Leora again, to find out what could grow from their strange and wonderful week together. Before leaving, Caleb visited Captain Blake. She looked at him with understanding. "You did something important, Caleb. Don't forget." "That," he nodded. "I won't." When the Orion arrived at Arvella, the landing bay was full of both humans and Arvellians. There were banners and music, laughter and cheers. Leora was there at the front, smiling, waiting for him. As Caleb stepped off the ship, Leora walked up and greeted him in the traditional way. Instead of the old ceremony, she simply reached out and took his hand. The crowd cheered, but it felt like they were the only two people there. "Welcome home, Caleb," she said softly. He smiled. "It's good to be back." The days that followed were busy. Caleb joined Leora in meetings, visited schools, and helped set up new projects. They worked together as equals, partners in a new beginning for both worlds. One evening, as they walked through a garden under the light of Arvella's twin moons, Leora spoke quietly. "I think we started something new. Not just between you and me, but for everyone." Caleb squeezed her hand gently. "I think so too. Maybe we can make our own traditions." She smiled, and they walked together, side by side, ready to see what the future would bring. For Caleb, the joke that had started it all was now a memory that made him laugh. But it was also the reason he had found friendship, courage, and maybe even love on a world among the stars.